Well, so it seems like I promised you guys earthquakes. So I was recently, I spent most of this week in Wellington, against my will actually, because I was in Wellington for a couple of days doing an arts event there. And then this earthquake happens and the railway is like shut down, the highways are all shut down, the airport is like, you don't know if there's a tsunami there or not, and you don't want to go there to find out if there's a tsunami there or not, so you just, like, the airport's out of commission. So I was stuck in Wellington for a couple of days, and it got me thinking about stuff, mostly this thing, which I knew I had to do. So I'm going to start at the beginning. So the night the earthquake actually happened, I was outside my hotel, running around the street. I was wearing like no socks, no underwear, and a singlet, and I just had my pants on. And yeah, I wasn't completely naked, guys. First thing, as soon as the earthquake hit, I put on my pants because I got my priorities straight. So when the earthquake actually happened, the funny thing is, the earthquake itself, like, I'll talk about that later, but I'm going to talk about what happened after the earthquake, when they were all telling us that a tsunami was going to hit. And the tsunami sirens in Wellington started going off, and it's like the worst sound you'll ever hear. It's the sound of it sounds like a robot baby that's malfunctioning. It's this drone that's, you want to do something. You want to do you need some water? No water. It's weird. Anyway, so I'm in the street and the earthquake sirens are going and the tsunami sirens are going, and I go back inside to my hotel and there's a TV going on and everyone's huddling around the TV. And this is why I love people in New Zealand. They're not watching the news, they're watching the rugby. And there's an earthquake that just happened. The biggest earthquake in New Zealand's recent history, bigger than the Christchurch earthquake, and the tsunami sirens just went off. So everyone's just watching the rugby, just chilling. And I ran outside, and the way my brain was working was I've got very specific fears, and my fears take precedence over everything else. So as soon as I heard about the tsunami, first thing that came to my mind was, oh my God, what if sharks ride the waves and come into the streets? And I have to deal with sharks, and they're coming straight for me, Like, if there's a shark riding a tsunami wave, it's coming for me. But the next morning, I'm walking around the eerily empty streets of Wellington, and I'm walking and I step over some loose rubble that I realise are bricks that fell from a building. And I didn't know until I saw that rubble that I knew that bricks were made of sand and clay, but it never really registered until I saw them disintegrated back into the constituent elements, like that on the street. And I'm walking through, and the whole city's shut down, and nobody's there, and it's just me. Suddenly an aftershock hits. And aftershocks happen immediately after earthquakes, and they continue for years at a time. And the big fear with aftershocks is that they're often just as bad as the original earthquake, and the fear is that they'll trigger another earthquake. So these aftershocks are really scary. What happens is suddenly it's like the earth will just breathe in, and it's like the earth has been smoking a pack a day of cigarettes for many years, and when it breathes out, it just wheezes. And the buildings are all shaking like boughs in the wind, and it's very peaceful, but also terrifying. And these aftershocks were happening throughout the day, and the whole time I was there, every few minutes there'd be an aftershock. And something about that was really, it felt frightening, but at the same time it felt reassuring in a way, because for the first time in a long time, I felt like the external surroundings, the world I'm in, reflected something of what I was feeling at the time. And for the last 2 months, I've been feeling I've been going through my own internal aftershocks, and I've been dealing with my own calamity. And that was what happened a few weeks ago, which happened in my neighborhood, in my town, in my local bus stop, just 100 meters or 200 meters from my house. A man was set on fire and he died, and the whole, it happened so close to where I lived, and it happened to a point where I could see the flames from the bus from my front porch. And ever since that occasion, ever since that day, the weeks afterwards, I'll be dealing with these quiet aftershocks. I'll be at the supermarket, and a friend of mine would call and we'd discuss, we'll make some plans and we'll talk about what we're going to do tonight or whatever. And then suddenly I'll be holding an avocado in my hand, and I realize that my mind's been empty for the last 5 minutes. And I look at my phone, and my friend's already hung up because he must have thought my line dropped. And the only thing that's in my mind was a man was set on fire a couple of 100 meters away from here, and a man died, and he was a good man, and his name was Khalid Warsame, and he was a lovely person, and he loved, and he was loved. And it's weird when you've got, it's like a broken record and just going through your mind all the time. So the first time I went back to that bus stop, which was right in front of my workplace as well, so that's a bus stop that I go to, I saw the flowers and everything, and I saw his memorial, the makeshift memorial there, and I thought I was going to have a moment to reflect and think, and moment of quiet grief, but my mind was empty. All I could think of was a man died here, and the world is just continuing, and people were taking a bus, people were walking up and down the street, people were doing everything, and apart from the flowers, you wouldn't have known that such a terrible thing happened. And the fact that the life was going on was almost profane to me, and I didn't have anything to say, and I didn't go back there for a while. And when I was in Wellington, the earthquake hit, the first thing I thought was, I was in my hotel room, and I woke up and I saw the kettle flying across the room and smashing against the wall. And I saw the light bulb swinging wildly, and I saw that my whole earth was shaking, the world was shaking, and I knew that I had a choice. I knew that I had a choice to get up off of bed and hide under a doorway or do what you're supposed to do in an earthquake. And I wasn't even thinking about the choice that I could make. For some reason, my mind, I was fixated on those events that happened in Moorooka, and I just thought about how Khalid Warsame, the bus driver, didn't have a choice. And I thought about how the people who were in the bus with him, they didn't have a choice. I thought about the community who came together in such a beautiful way after the incident. They didn't have a choice. And the only person in that situation who had a choice was the terrible man who did that terrible thing. And something about me being in this life and death situation and having a choice as to whether or not to save my life or to not save my life, something about that was really, I felt disgusted in myself. I felt guilty for having a choice. I felt it felt wrong to be able to save my own life when so many people aren't able to save their own lives in those situations. Eventually, though, I did put on my pants. So I exercised some choice there. And when I got back from New Zealand, this morning actually, this is my first day back, I got back and I went to the bus stop and I went to the makeshift memorial, and I thought I'd have something different. I thought that the gap in between the last time I was there and now, I'd have some coherent thought. So I went there, and there was nothing. I saw that the world, the normality of that so offended me earlier was still there. The flowers were wilted, and there were less flowers than there were before. And people would walk past the memorial and glance briefly. Whereas the first time I went there, people were in shock and they would stand there dumbfounded like I was. And I realized that the world was going on, and I realized that it's easier to rebuild your life than to forget something. And the way I saw how the New Zealand authorities dealt with the earthquake, they started rebuilding the morning after the earthquake. And with these sorts of things, with grief, the urge to rebuild always comes before the closure. and I'm not ready to. I don't feel like I have any closure, and I don't feel like I understand anything, and I don't feel like I've become better knowing this. And it's weird how the urge is to feel like this is a lesson for you, but there is no lesson here. It's just a terrible thing that happened. And I realized something important about these kinds of calamities, in the sense that loss and the urge to understand are normal, and they're just a sign that they're a sign of grief. And grief is a small wound that doesn't know any medicine, and it'll be an open wound for as long as you are alive. The thing you can do is you can build your life around the wound, and I've been doing that. I've been trying to do that, but I don't have any answers, and I don't know if it's something that will ever be resolved in my mind. And I don't think I want closure. I want to remember. I want to know myself well enough to know that I want to be uncomfortable about things, because the more discomfort I feel about these kind of things, the more I feel that I'm doing my duty as an empathetic human being with a place in the world. And yeah, I guess it's not strictly solace, but it's close, and it's close as I'll ever get, and I'm happy with that. Yeah, thank you.